We weren't really addressing specifically, more just for your knowledge. And then basically what they have to do with is key principles in milieu management. So these are things that are important to Alzheimer's, but are more like overall principles. So safety is your primary priority. This means internal, emotional safety, as well as external physical safety. We have to be diligent in our nursing care 24 hours a day to prevent self-harm. We're going to remove harmful items. We want to keep our clients informed and on their plan of care as much as we can, because the more predictable it is, the less stressful it is, basically. If they know what to expect and why we're doing the things that we're doing, then they are going to be able to work with us better. We want to look for human-to-human contact. It gives the opportunity for the nurses to communicate openly about suicidal tendencies. We had that conversation, I think, in post-conference just last night, that basically, you kind of, sometimes you get those cues having a conversation with your client that you're not going to get if you're just, going in and out doing nursing care, but really sitting down and talking to them. And I think some of my students have found in clinicals working on their critical thinking assessments and going into those questions about feelings. I think is it number 3 on your critical thinking? I don't remember exactly, something in that range, but basically how much they've learned from really sitting down and talking to their clients about their feelings and what kind of their experience is. You want to intervene before aggressive events. Being consistent with policies and procedures for the unit is the first step in preventing those aggressive events. Then you want to intervene in escalations. Offer your clients some time and space to cool off, talk one-on-one with them. Assist with both clients in problem solving when you can. As a last resort, you're only going to use restraints and seclusion as a last resort, and we've talked about that. You know that. In order to intervene early, you as a nurse have got to be paying attention to what the environment looks like and paying attention all the time. And I think that's kind of, at least when we did St. Anthony's orientation, that was kind of addressed with their cell phone policy, basically, that if nurses are looking, or I don't know what they call them there, they're people that are out on the floor more, but out on the unit more. But anyway, if they're looking at their phones, texts, okay. So if they're looking at their phones, they're not picking up on those subtle cues that things are escalating. You have to have a strong collaborative relationship with your healthcare team to do these things. Clients with psychiatric disorders are particularly susceptible to abuse, and sometimes they're not believed when they do report abuse. So make sure that you're listening to your clients. 2 parts of that: make sure that you're protecting yourself, that you don't put yourself in situations where people could make false accusations against you. Once again, at St. Anthony's, he talks about the fact that if he's going to meet one-on-one with a client, he makes sure he's somewhere where a camera can see him. So, to protect yourself, but then also you need to take reports of abuse seriously, because those abuses do happen, and sometimes your clients aren't believed when they're in that psychiatric setting, and so things don't get dealt with, and people get away with things that they shouldn't. We covered that. The next slide talks about I kind of didn't move slides there, did I? Be attentive, complete your incident reports as you need to. Patient rights should be posted on the unit so that clients know how to report any problems that they're having. This one was just kind of some essential elements of the nurse-client relationship to provide safety. One of them is accessibility. So you need to be giving your clients are your priority. You're giving them your time. Provide reassurance and comfort for them. You need to be genuine, open, and trustful. Now, that doesn't mean that you put all your personal information out there, because as we know, some of the clients that we deal with are dangerous at times, so we don't necessarily do that, but we do want to be open. They talked about trying to bond with your clients over maybe interests, like those kind of safe topics. What movies do you like? What books do you like? Hobbies, sports, things like that, rather than personal information that they could use to track you down. They need to have a sense of security. They need to know that the nurse is going to protect them, that they're safe emotionally and physically. I think it's interesting that provision of physical care is the last thing on this list. So psych order sometimes is kind of different. Basically, emotional needs are sometimes a higher priority. You want to provide physical care, but emotional care is very important. The next one is structure. You need a certain amount of structure. You guys have witnessed that in your clinical settings. Most of those settings have a pretty specific daily schedules. They do the same thing at the same time every day. You may have groups, recreation, art therapy. Recreation and art are good. They allow for kind of low stress interactions with other people. Can also be used to work on specific functional skills. Can be taught as coping activities. But even though schedules are helpful, as a nurse, you also need to be reminded that you have to be flexible based on your client's level of function for that day. So they're not, just because they participated well in an activity yesterday doesn't mean they're always going to be capable of participating in it today. So basic daily schedule, but use your clinical judgment and how you administer that schedule. We also, structures involved in physical design, they need to have adequate space, they need to have areas where they can socialize, and also areas where they can have a little space and privacy too when they need it. A lot of places use a central area for daytime socializing and call it kind of a day room or activity room or something like that. The last one there need to be rules of interaction. One of the other slides talks about them and calls them norms, but basically the way staff interacts with each other, the way staff interacts with clients, the way clients are allowed to interact with each other. The more you can express concrete rules about these things and keep consistent application of those things, the better your unit is going to function when people know what to expect. Just like you guys, the more you know what to expect and the more things stay, everything is equivalent, the better we function too. So not shocking that it works with their clients that way too. We do have study session. If we get cut off at some point, like I said, this stuff is not. Do you think we'll go straight through? I feel like we've been getting cut off every time. Does anybody have any insight on that?
I think the issue's been corrected, but I need a window of time between class and study session to pass back some assignments for my clinical group. So
okay,
if we could still keep the lecture time till
2:30.
Till 2:20.
Okay, yep, I can do that. And like I said, this is kind of just overall information. So if we don't get through it, I'm not super stressed out about it. So that gives me like 1 more minute. So the other ones deal with kind of norms. That's like kind of tells you what norms are and what kind of norms you might communicate with your clients, such as ADL and hygiene expectations. So you do expect them to bathe and be clean and brush their teeth and things like that. What they can and cannot do with other people around them, what their expectations are as far as participation, and what you want them to focus on in terms of their personal plans. You want to have as much as you can your norms written and posted so that everybody can see them and knows exactly what to expect. What do we have? And then balance is the last element it talks about in your book. Basically, you need your clients to progress to independent behaviors in a dependent environment. So that's kind of a slow thing that requires your nursing judgment for them because you're going to send them home eventually. And so, they need to be able to function without you too. So when they first come in, they may need to be very dependent in their behaviors, and then you're going to allow more independence and move towards independent behaviors in that environment to prepare them to go home. That's all I've got. Does anybody have questions or anything before study session? Okay, so we'll resume in about 10 minutes for study session then.